Have you ever wondered why some women linger in a man's mind long after intimacy, while others fade like a forgotten dream? Most people think it's about chemistry, the right words, the perfect body, the glow of attraction. But the truth is far more haunting. What keeps him obsessed isn't the surface, but the shadow. What binds him to her memory is not the perfection of the light, but the mystery of what he cannot fully possess. Carl Jung believed that the shadow, the hidden, repressed side of the psyche, holds the key to the deepest human magnetism. And nowhere does that truth reveal itself more powerfully than in the silence that follows closeness. After intimacy, when the masks have fallen and the defenses are bare, the unconscious takes the stage. In that quiet, something ancient happens: projection. The man projects his anima, the inner image of woman that lives inside his psyche, onto the real woman before him. For a fleeting moment, he feels as though he's touched his own soul through her. But when the moment ends, confusion arises. His conscious mind begins to separate what was real from what was internal, and his obsession begins not with her body, but with the echo of his own psyche reflected in her. The women who understand this, not intellectually, but instinctively, know that what holds him is not possession, but resonance. Her energy after intimacy carries the weight of her shadow, not darkness as destruction, but darkness as depth. She doesn't rush to fill the silence, doesn't soothe his uncertainty. She allows the void to speak. It is in that space that his mind starts to spiral. He feels her absence as presence, her distance as gravity. The woman who has made peace with her own shadow doesn't scramble to be understood. She embodies paradox, warmth wrapped in mystery, openness edged with restraint. It is not a game, it is authenticity. The shadow cannot be faked because it is the rawest truth of the self. He feels her not through words, but through energy, through the way she reclaims her own space afterward, how she breathes back into herself, how she looks at him without needing reassurance. Most women try to hold him with affirmation, but the woman who knows the language of the unconscious holds him with reflection. She becomes the mirror of his own unresolved longing, the symbol of something vast and untamed inside him. Her stillness invites his chaos. Her presence awakens his depth. In her calm detachment, his ego begins to unravel, searching for meaning in the way she exists without needing him to define her. It's in this moment that obsession is born, not through availability, but through psychic tension. The forbidden allure of the shadowed feminine is her wholeness. She carries light and darkness in equal measure, and he senses it. She doesn't hide her emotion, but she doesn't collapse into it either. Her energy is a dance between surrender and self-possession. Jung wrote that, "No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." The same is true for her presence. She captivates because she has journeyed into her own underworld and returned with power. After intimacy, when she rises and the world seems to slow around her, he feels something shift. The atmosphere thickens, not with longing alone, but with awe. He may not understand why, but he knows he's touched something sacred. He knows he's met a woman who has met herself. Her shadow signals, subtle, invisible, magnetic, now begin their work. They speak not to his logic, but to his instinct, binding him to the image of her that now lives inside his unconscious. She doesn't try to remind him of her worth. She is her worth. And in that truth, she becomes unforgettable. In the hours that follow, when the room grows quiet and his body has returned to calm, his mind does not. The masculine psyche begins to circle what it cannot define, the residue of her energy, the echo of her silence, the way her gaze felt like both an invitation and a farewell. This is the terrain of the unconscious, where thought dissolves into instinct. Her presence lingers like scent, like music that refuses to end. The more he tries to name it, the further it slips into mystery. Jung taught that the soul is drawn not to clarity but to tension, to the paradox between what is known and what is felt. And so his obsession begins, not with the woman herself, but with the symbol she has become in his inner world. Her secret lies in her ability to remain intact after surrender. She does not fragment under the intimacy she offers. She doesn't rush to become smaller, softer, or more digestible in the afterglow. She returns to herself, slowly, completely, and that act of return ignites a primal recognition in him. He senses that she belongs not to him, but to something greater. That her body, her mind, her energy are in conversation with her own soul, not with his approval. The lover archetype, fully integrated with the shadow, moves through her like flame through incense, consuming nothing, illuminating everything. In modern relationships, many mistake connection for attachment. But true connection lives in polarity, in the dance between closeness and distance, giving and reclaiming. She embodies that polarity effortlessly. Her post-intimacy gestures are her secret shadow signals, the way she looks at him without clinging, the way her body rests without seeking permission, the way her silence fills the space with quiet sovereignty. These gestures stir the masculine unconscious because they mirror the eternal feminine, the anima that promises transcendence but never submission. He becomes obsessed not because she withholds, but because she exists beyond his reach. There is a profound serenity in the woman who has faced her own darkness. She does not need to be worshipped, she simply cannot be forgotten. Her energy hums with the memory of integration, the place where desire meets discipline, where softness meets steel. Men feel this even when they can't explain it. They feel the weight of her emotional maturity, the way she can hold intensity without collapsing into it. It is not her beauty that disarms them, but her composure. She embodies both chaos and control, light and shadow, love and mystery. In Jungian terms, she is the embodiment of the self, the union of all opposites. And because most men have not yet made peace with their own inner feminine, encountering such a woman destabilizes them. She awakens both their deepest desire and their deepest fear, the loss of control. The more he tries to understand her, the more his rational mind fails. His logic cannot categorize her, and so she becomes myth, an archetype he carries with him into waking life. Every woman he meets afterward is compared against her. Every silence reminds him of hers. Every fleeting moment of tenderness echoes her presence. She does not intend this, it is simply what happens when the feminine becomes whole. The man who touches her is also touched by his own unconscious, whether he knows it or not. Her energy pulls him inward, forcing him to confront what he has avoided, his own vulnerability, his own longing for meaning beyond the physical. She does not chase his affection, she evokes his evolution. And once evoked, it cannot be undone. In the quiet aftermath, her absence becomes a presence of its own. He scrolls through her memory, looking for signs, for reasons, for closure. But there is none, because she never performed, never promised, never pretended. She simply was. And the psyche cannot let go of what was real. Days may pass, and yet her essence remains, not in the details of her face, but in the energetic impression she left behind. The mind forgets form, the soul does not forget frequency. He replays moments that were never dramatic, never staged, the way she paused before speaking, how her laughter carried both softness and restraint, how her body seemed to exist entirely in the present moment. These fragments become symbols. In his psyche, she transforms from woman into archetype, not because she demanded it, but because she embodied it. Jung described this as the power of the anima, the feminine image that lives within the male unconscious. When he meets a woman who mirrors this energy authentically, the line between projection and presence begins to blur. Her shadow signals, invisible but tangible, awaken something dormant inside him. The first signal is emotional containment. She doesn't over-explain, doesn't rush to manage his reaction. Her restraint feels like gravity. In her silence, he senses depth. Most people fill space to feel safe, but she lets silence do the talking. This unsettles him. His mind searches for meaning, but his instinct already knows, she is different. Her energy doesn't chase approval, it commands respect. The second shadow signal is emotional polarity. After intimacy, she allows contrast to exist, warmth and distance, affection and solitude. She knows that real desire breathes in rhythm, not constancy. So she withdraws gently, not in punishment but in preservation. This subtle retreat draws him in further because it activates his archetypal pursuit. The masculine, by nature, is designed to move toward what awakens his inner challenge. And she, by remaining centered, becomes that challenge, not as game, but as mirror. She awakens his inner king by standing in her queen energy, grounded, self-possessed, unafraid of stillness. The third shadow signal is energetic sovereignty. It is the unspoken sense that she belongs to herself first. Her body, her emotions, her presence, all orbit around her inner axis, not around his validation. This independence does not push him away, it anchors him. Men are drawn to women who move as though their worth is self-sustaining. He feels it in her gestures, in the way she stretches after silence, in the calm way she collects her things, in the softness that does not beg to be understood. Every motion says, I am whole. It is this wholeness that makes him crave her, because it reflects what he is still searching for in himself. The more she embodies her shadow, her sensuality without shame, her self-possession without arrogance, the more his obsession deepens. Her shadow energy invites him into a realm beyond pleasure, into transformation. She becomes the symbol of balance between passion and peace, the paradox that his conscious mind cannot solve. An obsession, in Jungian psychology, always arises where mystery meets meaning. She represents both. But beneath all this, there is no manipulation. Her power lies in awareness, not control. She understands that obsession cannot be forced, it must be evoked. And what evokes it is authenticity infused with mystery. He doesn't crave her attention, he craves her energy. He wants to understand the part of her that seems to live in a different dimension, the part that looks at him and sees through him at once. At night, when the masculine withdraws into solitude, it is her presence that echoes, not because she tried to stay, but because she never fully left. The shadow woman leaves impressions rather than traces. She teaches him through absence what he could not comprehend in closeness. And so, even as life pulls him forward, her image persists, not as fantasy, but as initiation. She was not merely his experience, she was his mirror. Some nights, when his mind is heavy with thought and his body still remembers her rhythm, he begins to sense the truth beneath his obsession. It isn't her physical presence that haunts him, it's what she awakened inside him. She became the catalyst for his own unconscious longing to be whole. Her shadow signals didn't seduce, they revealed. Each unspoken gesture was an invitation into depth, an initiation into vulnerability, a call to face the part of himself he'd buried beneath ambition, logic, and control. He doesn't crave her as a person, he craves what she represented, a mirror of the anima, the inner feminine that connects man to soul. The feminine who understands this does not mourn his confusion. She allows it. She knows that every man must wrestle with his projections before he can meet her in truth. She doesn't chase, explain, or try to soften his discomfort. Her detachment isn't cruelty, it's sacred respect for his process. Jung called this the tension of opposites, the friction between what the ego wants and what the soul needs. She embodies that tension gracefully, allowing space for obsession to transform into awakening. While he spirals through thought, she returns to stillness. She knows that nothing she could say would anchor him more deeply than her silence. There is a beauty in the woman who does not try to be remembered. She leaves impressions like footprints in water, they ripple, then dissolve, yet something eternal lingers. Her energy imprints not on his memory but on his psyche. He may not recall her words, but he will remember the way the world felt when she was near, slower, deeper, alive. This is the power of a woman who has integrated her shadow. She does not need to manipulate to be magnetic, her presence already bends reality. The secret she carries is paradox, she can surrender without losing herself. After intimacy, when many give their power away, she gathers hers back like a ritual. Her gestures are quiet but potent, the way she draws a breath, the way she turns away, the way she smiles without explaining. Each motion tells him, "You touched me, but you did not consume me." This truth intoxicates him more than closeness ever could. For the masculine, control is comfort, but mystery is evolution. She awakens his evolution simply by existing beyond his control. In the mythology of the psyche, the shadow woman is not the villain, she is the teacher. She arrives to expose the illusion that love is ownership. Her connection is not transactional, it is transformational. Through her, men learn the language of emotional depth, the necessity of surrender, the holiness of uncertainty. And while the immature masculine clings, the awakened masculine bows, not in submission, but in reverence. He realizes that obsession was never about conquest. It was a yearning for meaning. And yet, she doesn't need him to realize it. Her path continues inward, toward integration. Each encounter, each awakening, each goodbye becomes part of her own alchemy. She understands that true feminine power isn't about being desired, but about being aware. Awareness is her magnetism, presence is her art. When she finally walks away, she doesn't do it to be remembered, she does it because her energy has already said everything words could not. She leaves not an emptiness, but a doorway. The man who met her will never be the same, because she mirrored back the place in him where love and loss become one. He will call it obsession, but it was transformation. And she, the woman of shadow, of wholeness, of silence, continues walking, untouched by the need to be wanted. For she knows the greatest truth of all, the moment you stop needing to be chosen, you become unforgettable. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.